Hello and welcome to the Argyle CIO for Retail Leadership Forum. My name is Vicki Lynn Brunskill with Argyle. It's great to have everyone joining us today. A couple of notes before I turn things over to our esteemed speaker for this session. First, a quick reminder to stop by our sponsors' virtual booths at any time during today's event and for the following week. Our partners are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience today. At any time during today's event, you can visit those virtual booths from the main agenda page, and those include complimentary materials, information, and meet and greet opportunities. And now, without further delay, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Daniel Poor, Senior Director, Strategy and Value, UiPath, the business automation platform. We are so excited to have Daniel with us for a thought leadership presentation titled Intelligent Automation Disrupts Legacy Technology Solution Order of Operations Thinking. Welcome, Daniel, and over to you.
Thanks, Vicki Lynn. I'm very happy to be able to talk to you today. What I want to talk about is how intelligent automation disrupts that legacy technology solution order of operations thinking and debate. IA, intelligent automation, which I define as robotic process automation plus artificial intelligence, can speed the time to value, thus helping CIOs contribute to retail's bottom lines faster. So looking at the context of the retail industry for a moment, there's the coming out of the COVID, there's essentially a trifecta of squeeze going on, right? There was the supply chain disruption, which has now evolved into supply chain changes. The retail organizations can no longer accept a singular leaned out supply chain because of the disruption risks that posed, and you all learned about so dramatically. So as you diversify your supply chain, that introduces new complexity and new risk. Talent is scarce and expensive, not just at the retail point of sale, but also really in the back office as well. Many organizations are struggling with that. And all we have to do is look at the news, the economic downturn, the headlines, whether it's a bank failure or something, is really rattling consumers and thus flagging consumer confidence, which it directly affects sales in the retail space. Second, it was started before COVID. COVID was an accelerant to it, is the fast convergence on omni-channel. There has to be a continuous customer experience regardless of channel. One example of that is the buy online, pick up in store movement that became very popular. And then risk. Risk is several levels. Certainly as technology becomes more important at the cyber threats, enterprise architecture level, and then fraud, whether it's at point of sale or in the back office. Those trends loom large, perhaps clouds on the horizon in the retail space. Those have implications for CIOs. First and foremost, perhaps stating the obvious, is integrated data. Accurate, complete, timely, and enriched data is the key to success or failure in the market right now and going into the future. Cross-organizational visibility, and that is both intra-organization from point of sale back to your warehouses and your design and product selection teams, and inter-organizational, all the way back in your supply chain to your suppliers and your manufacturers. And then finally, speed and agility to change, right? I think what every organization across sector, but perhaps even more so in retail, learned is that there's no predicting what's going to happen next month or next quarter. And organizations have to be able to turn on a dime in a way that we didn't, frankly, think we needed to worry about heretofore. So what does that mean for CIOs in the retail space? There was a perennial debate about what should come first, right? The process redesign and perfection, or deploying technology to essentially force process improvement. I was a participant in this debate for more than 20 years. And on the one side, you had the CIOs who were saying, we really need the business to clean up their act, to clean up the processes. I don't have enough resources to go implement a process only to find out the business changed their mind 2 quarters later. On the other hand, you had the business saying, we need IT to step up and speed up because the market is not going to wait for us, nor will the competitors. We need IT to be more responsive and have a faster twitch muscles. Probably even some muttering about why is IT so slow? Why are they so expensive? What did we really get for that ERP or other transactional system upgrade? That perennial debate was legitimate for many years. What's happened is intelligent automation has changed this debate, and it's no longer the right way to pose the either or question, and that's what we'll talk about. If you were waiting for perfect processes before you implement just the right technology, as lean and clean and simplified and standardized as possible, that's great. You could do that. Those perfect processes are just over the horizon. All you need to do is keep driving, very much like that family vacation with the kids in the back. The question is, can you afford to wait? In this market, I would suggest you can't. So let's talk about what intelligent automation is and what it can do in changing this equation. At base, the core RPA solution does three things. It's really that simple. It reduces non-value added work, it reduces opportunities for error, and it reduces cycle times. When you combine RPA with AI, it adds a whole nother vector of value. AI can collapse the time, scale, and complexity of business processes, adding a whole new increment of revenue available to the organization. So combined, intelligent automation offers not only optimization of your current processes, but an opportunity to improve and add new revenue streams. Now you can bank the value that intelligent automation provides you in a variety of areas that are relevant to your business and your business context at this time. It can be new products and services revenue. It could be faster speed to market, reduced cost structure, reduced risk exposure, increased agility and speed, or improved customer or employee experience. Stepping back for a moment to sort of the 40,000-foot level to look at where we've been and where we're going, is there are really three generations of digital automation, right? The first generation started in the late 90s, the early aughts, and that was the introduction and standardization of the core transactional systems, ERP first amongst them, CRMs and the like. And in retail, there were several others. I'm going to use ERP as a synonym for all the core transactional systems. But the focus there was always standardization of the core processes. It was really driven by the central office because they wanted to get control over their data and have visibility. It was very much of a one-size-fits-all mindset, and it ended up perversely displacing that last mile of legitimate business process difference by business unit, by business function, by geography, out into the field. It didn't take it away in one-size-fits-all, it just hid it. The second generation, starting with RPA's arrival in the marketplace about 2015, that ended up being a game changer, where the focus was on those pockets of inefficiency. And RPA really, out of the gate, was focused on cost reduction. It again was a sort of a one and done approach. And while it added a lot of value by getting rid of non-value added work, there were still significant gaps. It was only focusing on pockets, so there was missed value opportunities. What we're seeing now is the third generation, and that is where RPA combined with AI on a business application platform like UiPath is completing the digital fabric of organizations. So you have an enterprise-wide digital fabric that focuses on agility and innovation and talent preservation. And it's all part of a continuous improvement mindset in the organizations rather than one or done. You can see on the right some of the quotes from leading analysts on how this full digital fabric and automation is central to that. So what I'd like you to think about is, for a moment, is what do we mean by a digital fabric? So if these verticals as represented here are your core transactional systems, and I'm using some of the usual suspects, CRM, supply chain, ERP, please substitute the ones that are relevant for you in your application portfolio. Now, several of these systems will talk to each other. They have good integrations, but the fact of the matter is the vast majority of organizations in retail and beyond don't have tight system integration. And the upgrade sequencing between one platform and the adjacent one is never tight. And there are lots of discontinuities. What intelligent automation brings is these red horizontal process and data flow orchestration weaves. It may be on the one hand is doing end-to-end cross-system orchestration of data flows in lieu of tight integration because you just haven't got there yet. In other cases, it may be that function-specific process automation at the last mile where logically you could solve that in your financial system or your warehouse system, but let's be honest, there's just not enough time or money for you to do it. And yet, intelligent automation provides you a whole new scale to be able to solve those problems at the outer edge of the business process, to give the same digital capabilities to all your business units that you give with the core and then transactional systems. So let's talk a little more about what I mean by that. If you look at 3 business units, could be 3 lines of business, it could be 3 different geographies. At the highest level, order to cash, procure to pay, hire to retire, whatever your top end processes are, they look the same, the beginning point and the end point, but there are often legitimate business process differences in the intermediate steps. Your core transactional systems are able to automate most of the steps, but it's again sort of the keeping core transactional systems simple and standardized. There's a one-size-fits-all mantra, which makes perfect sense. You do not want to configure and customize yourself into a hole and never be able to upgrade again. But that leaves gaps at the margins for each of these business units, and those are often distinct by business unit. What intelligent automation does is extend your digital fabric to those last mile edge business process areas to give the business and IT the process control, the data control, and integrity that you expect from your core transactional systems, but at the margins where there just isn't enough time or money to actually do that with your core systems. That yields at an enterprise application portfolio level the actual value that IT aspires to deliver and promises to the boards, right? Is a pervasive digital fabric, greater business agility, a faster time to value, a lower system of record complexity, which gives you IT more agility, a shorter system of record backlog because you're taking some work off your core teams and moving it off to a lower cost, faster twitch team, and thus ultimately a lower tech total cost of ownership across your portfolio. So this is important because intelligent automation has a orders of magnitude smaller scale of time and cost. It becomes a game changer in what CIOs have historically had to contend with of delivering value against a endless demand, business demand for functionality. So let's look at time first. Right, your core transactional systems, I'm using ERP here as an example, fill in your substitute version of it. You measure upgrades or module enhancements in quarters. You're lucky if it's 2 quarters, it's often more. In contrast, UiPath's most complex intelligent automation is measured in weeks, maximum of about 12 weeks. Now, let me be clear. UiPath Intelligent Automation is not a substitute for an ERP module or a point of sale module. That's not what I'm saying. But for those things where you might be able to do it in your core transactional system, but that's going to take time away from other key things that development team needs to do. UiPath may be a substitute that delivers the business value, the business outcome you need at a much shorter time horizon and a much thus shorter smaller cost structure. That has real implications for how IT is perceived as delivering value and legitimately does deliver value to the business. So if we look at these time horizons, these time arcs, the great time arcs are the reality of what it takes to deliver business value, measurable business value, using the core transactional systems. If it takes longer for that team to develop the new business capability, and best case, 9, 12 months, that's that first gray arc. But the reality is oftentimes what that business needs is in a backlog of that development team for the core transactional system for quarters on end. I had one Fortune 50 chief HR officer say to me, my needs are always 28th in line every year. And I'm sure CIOs, you've experienced that again and again. You have to say no when you really know it's important to the business, but you just do not have the resources available to deliver on those legitimate business needs because they're just higher business needs that trump that. And so you're constantly looking at this delay cycle of these gray arcs, and that is business value left on the table. Now, to the degree that intelligent automation can meet that need in part or in full, in a much shorter time scale, this offers a new opportunity for the technology team to deliver measurable business value to the bottom line of the business sooner, as represented by the gray arc, the red arc, right? Is that the 3 months, maybe even 6 months with some backlog. If you can deliver some or all the business value, the delta between when the red value is delivered and the 30, 24, 36, 48 months of the gray arc is the difference of business value IT returns to the business. Now, let me address the elephant in the room here of the word temporary. Being an IT strategy person for all my life, I know temporary is a very bad word because temporary becomes permanent, becomes tech debt, and it becomes yet another thing that the CIO needs to worry about. This is again where you need to think differently now. And that is because, so let's be honest, on the wider time scale, we're only planning application technology architecture 36 or 48 months out because the market and the technology stack is changing so fast. The time horizon where we used to talk about 5 to 10 years, it's now 3 to 4 years. So anything that's going to last 36 or 48 months is effectively your permanent solution. On the other hand, if we really talk about, well, where can we put a stopgap thing in that's temporary until such time as my ERP team gets to it in 24 months or 36 months. What's different about intelligent automation is that our low-code enterprise class control plane allows you to deploy a technology to deliver on the business value and wind that back easily when you're ready to deploy your full system of record solution instead. And instead of that just being lost time and effort, the majority of your investment in the robotic process automation and the AI solution is actually recoverable. The salvage value, the full cost of the robot is salvageable and reusable in another place. As done right in an enterprise class coding, a fair amount of the code you develop for the automation is reusable, leaving you a very small amount of your cost of investment that is actually you have to walk away from and write off. That changes the game again. So what we found is the leading organizations use a new perspective when they stare at business problems. Now, if I have a generic end-to-end business process problem here in the middle, and I have a couple of explosions showing you where the business is complaining, and you can see the needle where the process is clearly not performing up to standard, you get the idea. We believe and we see our leading customers using 4 perspectives to stare at that business problem and come up with increasingly agile answers to it. Well, first off, you start by looking at what are the business goals. It may be accelerating growth. It may be operational excellence, as the case may be. The 4 perspectives should look at the end-to-end business process problem by first off identifying what are the business capabilities that are needed and not running immediately to the technology solution. They should be looking at what business outcomes are required. Could be quality improvement, cycle time improvement, efficiency improvements, agility, or experience by your customers or your employees. The approach that the 4 perspective team should use is to look where they can rapidly identify and automate the process, to reduce process level and task level friction, remove non-value added work, opportunities for error, cycle time delays, thus delivering a faster time to value and a greater ROI. So those 4 perspectives are what we show here at the bottom. Now, Six Sigma is not really big in retail, but you probably have your equivalent of transformation and lean team, process rationalization team. That team and that perspective is absolutely important. They should be the challenger to any process, staring at the process and asking, why are we even doing this? Secondly, you're going to have the business line SMEs explaining why this is a uniquely and legitimate business difference for this business line, this product line, whatever. Then you're going to have your enterprise solution architects staring at the same problem with a focus on the data lifecycle integrity and the overall enterprise application systemization and standardization. That is exactly what they should be doing and figuring out how they can solve the problem within those constraints and toward those goals. Finally, and the new complement, the new perspective to this agile team is the business automation solution architect. This role is staring at the process and trying to optimize for process orchestration and last mile solution expertise. Their goal is time to value delivery. Each of these perspectives stares at the problem and they effectively bid on the solution, their version of the solution that can bring the maximum value in the shortest time. And the answer is never going to be one or other of these. It's going to be a combination. But by thinking of it in this portfolio basis, portfolio solutions, this is how technologists in retail can deliver greater value to your business faster. So what are the areas where automation is a candidate for helping out, right? What are some of the characteristics? Universally, it's where you see a large headcount doing the same kind of work, high transactional volumes, complex process flows, or revenue opportunities where there's just not sufficient capacity in the business to go capture that revenue. At the process level, it's routinized or high volume task work, right? Humans moving data, swivel chair integration from one system to another, process delays where you're waiting for a human to come in to do essentially basic routinized decision-making work, paper-based intake and translating paper forms into structured data, or BPO work where they might be cost advantageous, but their quality is very low and it has a knock-on effect of additional cost in the home office. And at the organizational level, it's wherever you have risk, frequent diving catches and just barely recoveries before the China hits the ground. Your error rates and associated costs of rework or even penalties are high. And then when there's just plain too much work for your staff, you can't hire quickly enough, you can't handle seasonality and surges, or you have low staff morale because just the plain tedium of the work you're asking them to do. Any of those, if you check any of those boxes, that suggests that you want to stare at that process area using intelligent automation as a potential solution. So then really the question becomes, which needles do you want to move? Let's look at this chart from the bottom up, right? At the very bottom, there are 4 atomic level value levers that intelligent automation gives you. The first is removes non-value added work. It removes opportunities for errors, reduces cycle time, and collapses that time, scale, and complexity of work to allow humans to do higher value work at a scale you never thought of before. Those 4 atomic elements feed into the strategy level metrics that most C-suites talk about. They want to improve productivity, quality, risk, speed, agility, experience, revenue, some combination of those most likely. So great, how are these 4 going to feed into the 6 that you care about? And each organization will answer that differently, but I can assure you the 4 will feed into all of the 6 in some combination and some weighting. And those 6 then in turn feed the 3 things your board and shareholders care about: cost, revenue, and asset management and maximization. So the question is, what needles do you want to move? And based on the prior slide, where do you see the smoke of those characteristics of automation potential? And use that smoke and these metrics, the needles you want to move, to suggest where you should go look for delivering value now using intelligent automation. To conclude, Intelligent automation is a new value delivery vector, right? It disrupts that legacy debate of should we clean up the process first and then do an ERP and then finally just whatever's left over, we'll do with some other tool. That is no longer the right way to think about it to deliver the maximum value to your business. Intelligent automation is fundamentally smaller. Time to value and cost to deliver scales changes the game and has to change your assumptions as technologists about what solutions you deploy when and where to solve a business problem, so that IT can no longer be perceived as just expensive, slow, and backlogged. Advanced digital firms are attacking business process problems using an agile co-design team, as I described, right? They're solving based on speed to value and full tech portfolio ROI. UiPath's business process automation platform provides that speed to value, as well as the technical control plane and operational rigor that you expect from any enterprise application. We believe it can bring value to retail organizations and be a differentiator for you. Hope you found this useful. Thank you for your time. Back to you, Vicki Lynn.
Thank you, Daniel, for such an insightful thought leadership presentation. Lots of great information there. I also want to thank everyone for joining us today for this session. This session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event.